Tom, a lot to discuss this morning. News coming out yesterday, multiple different places. And we'll start with Desi Sills. You've been covering this basketball team all year long. I think Tommy, me, and so many other fans were surprised to see him announcing that he was entering the transfer portal. What was your surprise level yesterday when you saw that news?
Morning, guys. I wouldn't say full wide open eyes surprise because his minutes had gone down, and he saw a lot of freshmen in the rotation, and KK Robinson coming back from injury, that were well regarded, and Devo Davis's minutes obviously picked up from the midpoint of the season on. Desi, after he hurt his shoulder in that Mississippi State game on that fall, he just didn't get the minutes, and he also, I think it impacted his kind of his patented deal of driving in and drawing contact and getting to the hole. And he made some incredible layups during his Arkansas career and took a lot of falls trying to get to the rim. And he clearly believes that he should be a guy who's, a scoring, a primary scorer on a team based on his social media posts. So a little surprising because I felt like, what they accomplished this year and all would sit well with, people, even if you're not totally happy with your minutes. But I get it. It is hard to play 9 or 10 guys. I mean, you could tell that Vance Jackson wasn't real happy about his minutes down the stretch. Felt like he could have contributed. And I can't argue, although I don't know the inside and outside of how well are they doing in practice. What is their attitude in the locker room and all those kinds of things. But every time I saw Vance Jackson on the sideline, he looked like he was in the game and cheering for the team. And Connor Vanover, for that matter, played a few minutes against Colgate, and then I don't think he got off the bench the last 3 games. So Eric Musselman and the staff had to make some very tough decisions, but Desi did not hesitate to pull the trigger once the season was over to get in the portal.
Seemed like Desi, anytime he came in, if he was hitting shots early, man, leave him in. He's probably going to have a good night and score some points. But if he missed that first shot or two, it just never seemed to get better as the game went on offensively for him.
Yeah, he's a streaky shooter, and you just felt like it appeared there was some drop in confidence or something after he had that long shooting slump, and he broke out of it for a game or two. But he wasn't the same guy, as he was as a sophomore, and it's all part of an ever-changing roster. And to me, Arkansas is hit by this affliction that is happening, happens to Kentucky and a bunch of the major schools. You got to deal with major roster transition year to year. If it's freshmen leaving for the NBA, if it's guys unhappy with playing time, and I think Eric Musselman and his staff were perfectly capable of adding pieces and putting together quality, long-run teams every year. But this is a kind of part and parcel of what happens when you're doing that.
Tom Murphy with us here on the Morning Rush. Tom, one conversation we've yet to have that we're going to get into coming up is it is a recruiting Thursday. And what would your pitch be to Jalen Tate, Moses Moody, Justin Smith to come back to school? If you had to talk to them each individually, this was your opportunity. If I don't know, Muss doesn't necessarily do this because he's more trying to help them pursue their career at the next level. But if it wasn't that way, what would your pitch be to each of those individuals to come back to the U of A for one more season?
Well, Ty, that is a great question. And speaking hypothetically, I suppose, you're hitting me with a tough one. For Moses, I just think there's so many projections. And, everything you hear is lottery pick and first round and all. It's hard to deny a guy that. You could say, hey, we will continue to develop you. We will add, try to help you add parts to your game, maybe get a little bigger. Moses, it was a strange season in some regards. I think Moses being able to create his own shot is a part of his game that he's going to need in the NBA. And there were times when it was hard for him to shake a guy when there weren't, you're going to set screens no matter what level you're on. But when it's time to take a guy and you got the ball with 7 seconds left on the shot clock, there were times where he couldn't shake and get a clean, step back or something like that. I'm rambling on, but he's going to have to weigh whether another run, possibly another NCAA tournament run, is worth delaying going to the NBA. And quite honestly, whether NIL passes, he could make some money this year if NIL comes in.
That's a good point.
Very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
For the other guys, Tate, I don't know how he's a great defender, a great teammate, and I don't know if that translates. He could make some professional money somewhere. I don't know if it's the NBA, but I would love, man, if you're Eric Musselman, I could sell. Man, you will be a key part of this team. We'll run more sets for you. Look at the ISO plays we did down the stretch, to win the ORU game. But sometimes guys that are his age who have transferred just feel like it's time to start making money. I don't know inside Jalen's head, but it feels to me like he might be gone.
By the way, his brother, Deshaun, I think I'm saying his name wrong, but his brother is on either the Nets or the Rockets, I think, at the next level. Played at Ohio State, if I remember that right.
Okay. So, Tom, what's your thought on Vanover? Doesn't seem to be a perfect fit in this system defensively. Maybe can't quite meet the standard that Eric Musselman requires against many teams. At 7'3", I think he'd have some options, maybe to even go pro overseas because of the height. What do you think the future is with Vanover? Is he back next year, or because I wouldn't be surprised at all if something changed there.
Oh yeah, based on the way his playing time went down, and there was. It felt to me like if there were teams with really quick 4s and 5s, that they felt like he couldn't make the defensive, the pick and roll plays and going with the roller. It made it tough on him. Mm-hmm. And, when he's backside rebounding, a lot of times guys just get off the floor quicker because when you're 7'3", it just takes a little bit longer to get gathered up and jump. Yeah. And but he's a guy who has value with his 3-point shooting when he's on. He had a couple of stretches where his 3-point shooting was valuable for this team, but you look at the minutes played and the production going down the stretch, and it went down. So I don't know. I'm sure he's going to have all kind of different scenarios going through his head that he could do that overseas. He'd be an attraction, and he's got game too. And whether or not he fits in what Arkansas wants to do, how that plays out to him, is the tough call for him.
Yeah. I'll presume that they're beginning or finishing up or whatever the process is and what stage it's in between Hunter Yurachek and Eric Musselman and his agent in some kind of new contract extension, new salary. What's the timeline in your head? Week, 10 days, or is it sooner than that? And what do you think the salary range will be and the terms will be when Eric Musselman's new deal with the university is presented?
Well, obviously a substantial raise. You got to put him up. I'm not sure did Nate Oates get into the mid-3s millions or something like that. I would think that he would come on up to the $3 million range or more.
Cal's making over 8, and then Rick Barnes makes 4.7, and I think Buzz Williams right now is the third highest paid coach in the low 4s. So wouldn't surprise me to see him maybe reach the low 4s and have a basketball coach paid more than your football coach. I think either way, whether it's high 3s, low 4s, he's going to be the highest paid head coach on campus.
Well, yeah, that could very well happen. And, he's got a very recent NCAA run and just a wonderful job as backup to that. That's a great question. And, the hit Arkansas took financially, does that give you less leeway on how high up you can go with your salary? That's a tough question, and I don't know how many. Maybe you add years, or maybe you give him a little bit more of a buyout deal, and maybe not quite as much salary. It's a good negotiation for Hunter Yurachek. And I think Eric Musselman and his family, Danielle and the kids, I think they really like being here. They certainly have created a kind of social media presence for themselves, and I think Arkansas fans are all in on that. So very interesting negotiations will take place, and it wouldn't surprise me if he got up to 4, but my thoughts would be somewhere in the 3s, high 3s maybe.
And this is the first time we've seen Hunter Yurachek under these particular circumstances. We've seen him hire coaches. We've seen him make changes. We've seen him fire. We've not seen him renegotiate and extend a sitting successful head coach. So this will be interesting to see how he handles the terms, because to me, as interesting as the annual salary will be, the terms of the buyout, how much it costs the coach to leave, is there a non-compete, how incentive-laden is it, or all as interesting to me as the number. The number's probably way down the list as much as the terms of the contract and the two-way buyout. How much is it going to cost Musselman to leave the next few years if he so chose? Those are interesting points.
Absolutely. That's all fascinating.
How does Hunter handle that? Because Jeff Long didn't do it well with Bielema. How does this AD handle that situation?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think what Eric Musselman and his group did this year certainly has a whole lot more leverage to it than Brett Bielema going 7-6 and beating Texas.
You think
in the Texas Bowl? Yeah. Even though that was a great moment in Arkansas football history, it was wildly overcompensated by Jeff Long, and we know what Hunter's stance is on crazy buyouts. Because let's just put the word to what it is. There are crazy buyouts that are very, very costly to these programs, and I think Hunter Yurachek should be commended for the public stand he's taken on why do that. And the agents probably had a whole lot of leverage in some of these negotiations, but that's just crazy money what they set up for Bielema. So, yeah, these are compelling points, and it's going to be one of the seminal moments that, years from now when we look back on Hunter Yurachek's tenure as an AD, what he did with this negotiation. And I'll have to tell y'all, the success Arkansas athletics is having right now, there's a lot of good going on. When you look at softball and baseball, gymnastics made a big push this year. The track and field, the women won the championships again and probably favored for outdoor. I mean, there's a lot of good going on in Arkansas athletics.
Tom, before we let you go, you're kind enough to give me some time tomorrow on trusting the process, and it's brought to you by the Arnold team at Weichert Realtors, Market Edge, and Harrison. Are you excited about this? Are you dreading this? What are your thoughts on joining me for a 45, 50-minute conversation tomorrow?
Please tell me you're dreading it.
Oh. Well, I'm so excited about this, Ty.
Good answer.
I'm trying to think.
Good actor.
Good answer.
What are we going to talk about for 45 minutes?
Your life,
I'll
man.
give you a little bit of my background growing up. I don't know. What are we going to do, man?
It's a hodgepodge of different life stories, personal stories, work stories. I've been working on these for a little bit. I think they've turned out pretty good. I think if you talk to RD or Clay, you can tell that I've done some backstory research. It's not just me throw it together and stick it to a wall. I'll make sure that we have some good questions prepped.
Well, that sounds wonderful. And, I mean, I never thought about in terms of what do people think of the lives of sports writers. But it's an interesting deal, and a lot of us probably have pretty neat stories. We hear the stories of players and coaches and all that, so maybe the media deserves its time a little bit too.
Who's the man behind the laptop? Find out more about Tom Murphy on Trusting the Process. So
there you go. I'm looking forward to it, Tom.
Can't wait, man. We'll do it tomorrow, and we'll talk to you on Monday about this Arkansas baseball team, football scrimmage, and who knows what else we'll get into.
Yeah, always good topics. Take care, y'all. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Tom. So should be fun, and we spend all the time talking about roster changes in basketball. We didn't get to the football practice, and it's been nearly no time with him on football practice being open. So we'll get to that. So a lot of fun stuff. You got Tom coming up. You've had a lot of good ones here lately. So check that out. Just search for Hit That Line wherever you get your podcast, and then look for trusting the process, and you can hear more about Tom Murphy with Ty coming up on that.